The American people, in historic numbers, have spoken up and said no in a day of nationwide protests that broke all records. Organizers say more than 5 million people turned out for the No Kings protest on Saturday. That was also the day of Donald Trump's birthday. According to one data analyst, it may have been the single biggest day of demonstrations in our country's history.
Boom. It may have been the single biggest day of demonstrations in the history of America. Welcome to WYCD. That stands for What You Can Do. My name's Jake. Great job, America. Great job on the No Kings protests. I mean, I can't tell you what we were hoping for. A lot of people, I guess. What were we expecting to happen? We being the American people, just more people showing up for that than for Trump's thing. It can be as petty a victory as that, and it's still a victory. That's what happened. Uh, looks like around 17 million people, maybe 13. I don't know. Trump's thing, on the other hand, had more attendance on behalf of the military than actual people in the crowds, from what I saw. No, it was around I think what 20,000 people. They were expecting 200 versus the millions and millions that came out for No Kings. Now, if you're watching from another time, a better time, I hope, then you ought to know why this thing was happening. Donald Trump was essentially betraying America yet again, this time by holding a military parade uh, for himself, essentially, on his birthday. America does not do that, or did not do that. We used to be a better place than this. Now, what else happened? Well, he also is going after brown folks and saying that it's illegal immigrants that he's going after. Of course, that's not the case. Saucy Seawitch, great to see you. Good evening to you as well, my dear. And Pinkerbell, hello. Yeah, I'm just recapping what the No Kings protests were about. Essentially, Donald Trump behaving like a king, abusing the people of America by going after anybody who's ever had to travel to get here, essentially, but especially the brown folks. And so the No Kings protests were held, and as a result, as you heard fine as Nicole Wallace saying, uh, just smashing success. Millions and millions of people. How smashing a success? Well, let me allow the young lady to continue.
50,000 people showed up in New York City. 70,000 people marched in Seattle, Washington. In Los Angeles, where protests have been taking place all week against Donald Trump's immigration policies, as well as his deployment of the National Guard against the wishes of that state's governor and Los Angeles city mayor, more than 200,000 people protested. This was the scene in Philadelphia, where 80,000 people were seen marching down the Ben Franklin Parkway, waving flags and chanting. Over in San Francisco, people formed a human banner that spelled out "No King" on the shores of Ocean Beach. And it wasn't just some blue state or blue city phenomenon. In Deep Red, Idaho, thousands of people showed up in front of the Idaho Capitol building. In Livingston, Montana, population 9,000, hundreds of people lined the streets there. Even in Minnesota, where local officials urged people to skip the protests because the gunman who shot and killed a Democratic state lawmaker and wounded another was at large. He was on the loose. Even there, nearly 25,000 people gathered outside the state capitol anyway.
I mean, that is as much a success as one could hope for. from an event where you're asking folks to come out and be seen. That's as much of a success as you could hope for. Let me tell you what's eating at me. And bad things haven't happened yet. I'm being a spoil sport. And if this victory is all that you're holding on to, it's all that's keeping you going, stop listening here, because it is a victory. I don't want to take away from that. I really don't want to take away from that. Pinkerbell says, "Nice tie, Jake." Thank you so much, Pinkerbell. Always, always. Uh, but I have things that I feel need to be said regarding my experience with protests. The last time I felt this way was immediately following some of the larger Black Lives Matter protests that I was a part of. Now, I've been out protesting various things for a very long time, but I remember thinking, with the Black Lives Matter protest, this has to be it. After this, I'm fascinated to see how American policing is going to change, because there's no way you get this many people in the streets for a cause and get ignored. I don't even think the No Kings protests, as of now, are going to have the amount of change the Black Lives Matter protests did. And those resulted in insufficient change to address the problems that they were protesting. Now, I do want to be clear. This was a protest to stop the bleeding. And I think it helped. I think it helped. But here's the thing, it would behoove us to identify why it is the Black Lives Matter protests were insufficient. The last time we had all this energy on our side, what happened? Why could we not convert it efficiently enough into votes? What was the last thing she was saying, Nicole Wallace? What was the last half of that video? A million people here, 100,000 people here, 10,000 people here, 30,000 people here. They were worried about in Minnesota. The officials were worried that a shooter was still on the loose, because it was specifically targeting lefties, or at least what he perceived to be lefties. They still went out. Lots and lots and lots of enthusiasm in red and blue states. Where were they in November? Why is this problem even here? If there was that much energy to come out against tyranny now, why is it people didn't take Trump at his word before the election? He's just doing all the things he said he would do. He's behaving exactly in the way he telegraphed. So where were these people? If we got, let's do the low number. If we got 13 million people in the streets on a Saturday, why couldn't we get 80 million in the voting booth? I think the kind of people that make up those 13 million people need to get a hell of a lot better at pitching a healthy vote for America to other folks. I don't know how. I'll tell you this, I met a lot of good people at the protests. This was bigger than not any I've ever been in, but, like, in my area, but easily tied, I would say, for whatever is you know what? It makes the top 5 list. Met a lot of good folks, they seem to have ideas. Talking to people on a one-to-one basis. It's not, you know, fast, but maybe that's the way to do things. Met people who are organizing in groups. I've invited them on. I'm going to have them on what you can do. And I'm going to also see if this space is interested in talking with, I don't know if you call them even professional organizers, but certainly full time political organizers. But that, I would simply say this for you guys work on your basic pitch. For all of this stuff, if you were out at the No Kings protests, or if you just, you know, maybe you're from a group which couldn't come, maybe you know you got a kid and the kid has to take priority and you couldn't come, but you believe in them. That's actually what I mean. That's what's important. You believe in the thing. How do you convince other people to vote correctly? How do you communicate your beliefs in a way that the average person, number one, is not inoculated against through media being insane, and number two, will understand? Do you not want soldiers in the streets? You've got to stop voting for Republicans. Do you want civil liberties? You've got to stop voting for Republicans. Republicans are why the NSA taps our phones regularly without any court discussion. Republicans are why airport travel is so terrible. Republicans are why there was any problem at the border to begin with because they refused to hire the correct amount of immigration judges. And then they're the reason why there are people who dodge uh, legally immigrating to America because they intentionally make the process so cumbersome that anybody with the real American spirit, not what we tell ourselves we are, but who we really are, anyone who's ballsy enough and lazy enough to take a risk to not fill out some paperwork because they actually don't give you know, real Americans, they won't do it. They might have been born elsewhere, but they are actual real Americans. They're our brothers and sisters in their heart of hearts. And that type of person would never sit down and participate in the immigration process as it was laid out by Republicans. We all are required now to be able to pitch our politics to normies. And I always hold up the Black Lives Matter protests as a failure. It's because I think they were ultimately a failure, and also because it's a failure that shook me. Because before having seen them myself, having covered them professionally, before that, if you would have asked me what is exactly what this country needs, what I would have told you would have been a sketch for exactly what the Black Lives Matter protests were. Tons of people out in the streets on message, same message, holding up signs. I thought, you know, not all of them easy to understand, but at least sympathetic. Big, important public speakers, politicians getting involved. I would have thought that was exactly perfect, and apparently it wasn't. So I'm here with the least helpful of warnings for you guys, which is to say a vague one. We have the energy right now. We've got a little bit of momentum. If it comes up in conversation, if normies wind up asking you, why are these people out? What specifically are they talking about? Have an easy to understand one sentence answer. Don't use three-syllable words. I feel like those were invented by the devil to confuse me specifically. Don't use small but difficult words. Just talk like a human being and explain to them why people are there. Tinkerbell. One guy did die in Utah, indeed. Yeah, Pinkerbell says most people don't see it or don't care until it hurts them directly. True. I would say one of our failings on the left is to explain to people how they are already right now being hurt directly every day a little bit by Republicans. For example, every time you go to work, you get taxed on your income. And the amount of those taxes is higher overall because Republicans keep cutting taxes for the rich. And they say they'll cut your taxes too. And sometimes they even write legislation that does that. But the ultimate effect, no matter how much of your taxes they say they're going to cut, at the end of the day, there are things that must be paid for in America, and someone has to pay for them. And when rich people don't, you will. So if your federal taxes go down to the point where you can't fund programs that are needed anymore, your local taxes will go up. And if they totally cut the taxes you had to pay for this carbon credit or that whatever thing that you think is a hippie policy, DEI, whatever, it's just going to go up on the other end. So your health care that you have to the roads, the whatever thing was getting paid for by the other tax will be worse. And as a result of it being worse, everything else will get more expensive. And your taxes will go up no matter what. So you pay a little bit more to the government every day because you keep voting for people who bribe government officials so that they can pay less. John Bailey, back from sabbatical. Howdy, everyone. Still in San Francisco, California. Welcome back, John Bailey. It is a delight to see you, my friend. Rex Trek, well, well, well. Toked Boomer. Hello, my friend. It is really good to see you, too. And Donald James X. Cat67 Cat. My God, we're getting the whole gang here. Pinkerbell says energy needs direction. I think that's entirely accurate. Yeah. Yeah. Cat67 Cat. I have to say bravo to Minnesota for showing up in the wake of tragedy. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more, my friend. Hey, that's the other thing I want to talk about. Sorry, I just realized you can't see my notes. Boy, I have not enjoyed doing this for a good long time. Not because of political stuff, uh, but because literally the money fucks with me. It feels gross taking money from you guys. Somebody from the group I asked not to. It occurs to me I probably can't say, I shouldn't say who it is, but somebody from the group I asked not to actually did use that Venmo link and very kindly gave me money, and it just took the wind out of my sails. I know it's like the opposite of what it was intended to do. I don't like that model, and I've never felt better. At least the two times I felt best about doing this show like this have been number one before I got monetized, and number two after I got gigged by YouTube and am now demonetized until September. I'm not even going to joke about collecting money from you guys anymore, and I'm not even going to put up a little bait to try to get new people to give me money. Um, there's ways to make money off YouTube. There's ways to make money off other social media. And you know what? This channel will probably get there. Just because of the topic it covers and the moment, it'll get there. Don't worry about it, please, anymore. If you are a member, cancel that membership. If it charges you, it shouldn't charge you anymore, but cancel it. And I respect you, and I am so grateful for what you've done. And I'm just going to eat the cost. I got rid of a bunch of the parts of this I don't need. I'm just going to eat the cost. I want to enjoy hanging out with you guys. I want this to be a fun show, and it's not going to be as generous as y'all are. It's not going to be if the entire time I'm self-conscious about it, which I will be if I'm charging, you know, decent the best people on the planet, in my personal opinion. You can't see. I'm pointing to the chat. The best people on the planet. I don't want to be bleeding you of $5 here and there. Do it to this space. Any of those channels, yeah, give them money, but not this. Oh, no, Pinkerbell, don't be salty. YouTube canceled it for us. I was salty. No greater relief in my life than being, at least these days, than being no longer even unintentionally thieving from you guys. I like it like this. Let's just keep it like this for a while. And also, I don't want to have to think about whether the music is copyrighted in the background. I don't want to have to do any of those things. All right, moving on. Donald James X, eat what cost your time. Yeah, there's very little cost. I have a StreamYard account. I have a YouTube Premium account so that I can show things to you guys off YouTube without ads. Altogether, it's about $100 a month. All the things I have. And you know what? It doesn't even have to be. I don't need Adobe to edit, for example. That's 20 bucks. There's just it's minimal. For if this was a business and you called these the costs of business, it would be hysterical. Really what it is a hobby that can be expensive if you let it. And it doesn't have to be. Saucy Seawitch, don't feel bad for asking for funding to help further your goals. Use it to spread information to help others in organizations. I don't mind supporting good people with good intentions. I know you don't. But you know what? You should support good people with good intentions and a plan. I just I didn't realize how quickly the faucet gets turned on with the money part of things in this. And probably should have been because YouTube's a business. And let's just move past because I don't even like talking about it. I just don't want it to be weird for you guys when you stop hearing these pitches. Uh, or I don't want, yeah, social weirdness, and it's behind us now. It's all behind. Good. Uh, Donald James X, $100 a month. Wow. Well, you know, you get 5 services that cost 20. It's convenience. It's super cheap, is what I'm trying to say. It's dirt cheap. All right. So when it comes to the No Kings protests, I want to say, America, I am so proud of you. And I really haven't been for a really long time. But we should do the math, and we should consider the fact that we've been here before. No, we've not literally had this many people in the streets, but we have broken records before. Let's see, the Women's March. I went all the way to DC for that mother. Biggest there's ever been. Collectively, the Black Lives Matter protests. Most people who have ever consistently been yada, 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 yada. And now the No Kings protest, the new biggest we've ever had. This is good. This is a measure of our strength. It's a measure of our temperament. It's a measure of what we won't put up with. We did good things here. But there is an unknown factor to be accounted for. It is our job to find it. It is whatever takes all that energy, all that good intention, and stops it from becoming a vote. I think we need to certainly have a quick pitch for why the left is the best. And you should also strongly consider a lot of those folks who were happy to be out there with you protesting against Trump, but who think that Chuck Schumer is a great leader, or who think that Bill Clinton was one of our best presidents, or Barack Obama, for that matter. Those folks need to be serious now. We've had a lot of loose lefties, nominal left-leaning folks, and in reality, they just are not of much use. They're the people we're fighting against during the primaries, essentially. And we could change them from enemies to supporters. Essentially, uh, in terms of efficiency, getting back 200% of their value. We lose them as an enemy. We gain them as an ally. They're the sort of people who are willing to go out into the streets. And if the only problem is that they don't have the political education and they're talking to you, somebody who watches this stuff for fun, easily solved. Easily solved. Cat 67 Cat, I would say we have not yet had a president show up for the people. I would honestly, if you're talking about in the modern era, by which I'm going to say the last 50 years, I would agree. I would, however, say that FDR and hold on to your butts, Lyndon B. Johnson were there for the people. Now they were not there because they were good people, because they weren't. Uh, the political moment forced their hand. In the case of FDR, it was because it was post the worst war that's ever occurred on the planet. America needed to be rebuilt, and in the wake of the war, there was going to be a new order in the world, and nations were going to measure their strength, and whoever could recover fastest was likely to be the strongest. In other words, uh, America actually had to function well, which means we didn't have time for the normal bribes. And I think FDR was aware of this going in. Uh, and as I say that, though, he was really more of a reaction to the depression. All right, let me just switch it to my favorite presidential record. Not my favorite president, but my favorite presidential record. Lyndon B. Johnson. Lyndon Johnson was in the unenviable position of living up to Kennedy's ghost's reputation. So I would say none of the things he did were things he would have wanted to do had he been elected president on his lonesome. But he had, all the promises Kennedy made ahead of him, and he simply had to live up to that. And as a result, it was one of the best set of uh, uh, policies that America's ever received. Um, my point in this super long tangent about which presidents were actually for the people is that the presidents who arguably did things that helped America didn't do things because it was their personal politics. They were forced to. Basically, not always by the people, but basically every time a decent thing is done for the American people, it's because the moment demands it. I do think we need to be the moment. I do think the next Democrat nominee should be a reaction to the temperature of the people. It should be someone who shocks people in the primaries. It should be the sort of leftist who you would expect to see in Norway, um, but simply here in the states and basically acting like Bernie, only 20 years younger. Saucy Sea Witch. Civics education is the other component. Pin. Uh, Too many do not understand the political system in their countries and become apathetic. You have to participate in order to change it. Easier said than done. I agree. Here's the deal. When you say civics education, it cannot mean a class where people sit down for 45 minutes once a week for 6 months. It cannot mean a 2 hour YouTube video. It has to be the sort of thing you work in to everyday conversation. We have to find a way to make it clear to people how all this stuff works. Like, for example, regularly saying, well, of course, you know, the Senate skews centrist because senators have to appeal to a whole state, whereas your representative can appeal to just your county, so on and so forth. Cat67 Cat. I guess my thing is I am tired of settling for the lesser of two evils. Sigh. Yeah. All right. Let me tell you this. I do agree with that, and I'm right there with you. I'm sick of it. But we need to be clear about what we're saying, because when we might both say that, but mean something very different. I am tired of settling for the lesser of two evils. However, there is a specific time to decide whether or not we're going to need to do that. We're in it now. That's the good news. We're in it right now. That time is the primaries. Because a third party, there's, I'm not going to say a third party won't make it, but there's no reason to believe, there's no evidence to suggest a third party is more likely to win. And in fact, what a third party is very likely to do, it's going to depend on the race you're talking about. Locally, very different. But generally speaking, a third party is more likely to simply split the vote. But there's a way we can get a lefty, a true lefty, in power. One is the primaries. Simply participate in the primaries, win in the primaries. And if you can't win in the primaries, do you think you were going to win in the general? I mean, maybe, truly, maybe. But if you can't even make a pitch to the people who are to the right of you on the left, how is it you expect your candidate to make a pitch to people who are sincerely on the right? Again, not impossible. Bernie Sanders had more opposition, frankly, within the Democratic Party than from true right wingers. But we're playing the numbers here, and it is unlikely. And even if it's not the way things ought to be, it's the way things are currently for this next election cycle. Primaries exist. Use them. Win them. Get serious about campaigning in them. Now, there's another thing you can do. And I'm going to have to reference my brother man here. Jake, don't touch my food. Oh, sorry, it's my sister. It's my sister saying, don't touch my food. Uh-oh. Ah, yes. You can get ranked choice voting like they have in Rank MI voting, Rank Michigan voting. That's one person or one group of folks who are probably going to be talking to y'all soon, but getting ranked choice voting will make all the difference in the world because that has a similar to effect to the primaries. It's another chance to get your person uh, in power. And you know what? I don't know that this is so, but I'm going to be asking them, can we pressure, say, Democrats to have ranked choice voting in the primary, so on and so forth. Saucy Sea Witch, the house is on fire, and now is not the time to worry about a leaky faucet. The immediate concern is the fire. Yeah, it's pretty much exactly it. Yeah, I actually can't put it better than that. That's how we're gonna end. The house is on fire. Uh, Congratulations to the people that ran outside with buckets and helped keep the neighborhood from burning down. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We got more work to do. Don't be discouraged by that fact. Be energized by that fact. Because it's going to be fun work. I'll say this the thing that is inspiring about being on the losing side is there's nowhere to go but up, baby. I'm going to have actual organizers on here in the near future to talk to y'all about this very stuff that we've been talking about today. I think it's best that you hear from them as opposed to me. On account of the fact that they know what they're talking about, and I am simply a gorgeous sex bot. David Martin Graff, hazing cold showers. Who's hazing cold showers? No one. That's madness. A cold shower is lovely, but I prefer a hot in the morning and a cold in the evening. I know it's all reversed. Pinkerbell, I have to vote in Republican primaries. My baseline concern is weeding out the craziest Q and MAGA weirdos trying to claw their way into power locally. Pink, you are such a hero. You're doing a double whammy. If you can get a centrist in the Republican primary and then make them run against a leftist, a true progressive, you're still unlikely to win. You were always unlikely to win. But you make the Republican Party look like the most toxic thing it can look like, which is to say, centrist. Similarly, there is a prank lawsuit that I want to do. I want us, I don't know if I should even talk about this. Well, I intend for it to fail. I want us to sue both the Republican and Democratic parties together as joint litigants in a class action lawsuit. All the people of America suing these motherfuckers for wasting our time, for being a nuisance generally. I just want to see them bled of money. Even if we don't, I mean, we're not going to win the lawsuit, but if we can make it sound legitimate enough that they have to go to court and we constantly keep them in court and we constantly just get to air our grievances with them and file for information on, say, oh, how much of our donations they spend on advertisements to talk to us to get more donations. I think that would be great. I think that would be fantastic. We get, say, in the class action lawsuit, documentation on how much money they're given from various groups. I would love that. Bankerbell, I am positive you could find some lawyers willing to do it for fun. I'll look for them. We'll see if we can get Ronald Reagan or some such. But I bet we could find some lawyers that would be happy to with the Democrat and Republican parties on behalf of the American people. Because that's why. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. My name is Jake.